Hello and welcome to warrenthornton.com. Hello and welcome to the show. We are joined, as always, every so often, by Peter Ford, a retired British diplomat who served as British ambassador to Bahrain from 1999 to 2003 and Syria from 2003 to 2006. Educated at Oxford, worked in London for the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Peter's career has included postings in Beirut, Riyadh, Paris and Cairo, and he was a representative of the Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Work Agencies for Palestine refugees in the Arab world from 2006 to 2015, and now is a very strong and very active member of the Workers' Party of Great Britain. Good evening, Peter, or should I say your ex-excellency?
I'm an ex-excellency. Peter's fine. I'm really looking forward to this evening, Warren, because as I look about the political reason, I have to laugh. So let's dig in and have some fun.
Okay, well, I suppose there's only one place that we need to start, Peter, and of course it will be the fact that Trump was speaking, should we say, at Davos. We have his. Here we go. Now, later on, we'll be playing his full speech for you. But while we've got Peter here for the next 45 minutes, we're going to come into. I'm going to mention a few bullet points from the speech, and then I'll let Peter take it away. A big, beautiful piece of ice was Trump's reality of Greenland. Here's what you need to know from his World Economic Forum speech. No nation or group of nations is in a position to secure Greenland other than the United States. This is from Trump. We saw this in World War II when Denmark fell to Germany after just 6 hours of fighting and was totally unable to defend either itself or Greenland. At that point, the United States was compelled to act. We felt an obligation to do so, to send our forces to hold Greenland. After World War II, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. How ungrateful are they now? I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many territories throughout our history, as many European nations have done as well. There's nothing wrong with it. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be frankly unstoppable. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the USA is asking for is a place called Greenland. We want a piece of ice for world protection. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we'll be very, very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember. Peter.
Well, yes, one doesn't know whether to laugh or cry, but mostly laugh. It's impossible to take seriously. This is all about Trump. It's all about his narcissism and his monstrous ego. He is a man-child with the emotional intelligence of an 8-year-old. He's a hybrid of a man-child and the Emperor Caligula, the notorious Roman emperor. And when you see him holding court in Davos, it brings to mind the imperial Roman court, and the vassals come. He insults them. He puts them down. He patronizes them. He pats them on the head, and then he kicks them up the ass. This is the Emperor Caligula at work. And no one, he's got them all off balance. No one knows how to deal with him, whether by appeasement or by retaliation. They're all over the shop. And I am loving this spectacle of seeing the so-called Western alliance exposed for what it has always been, Washington's fan group. And these wannabe Western leaders are exposed for the pantomime politicians that they are. They haven't a clue. He leaves them all floundering. Most of all, our own dear Prime Minister, who looks weakest of the lot, and who appears to have a deliberate strategy of, on the one hand, provoking Trump unwittingly, for example, by sending a British soldier, one soldier as part of the European Expeditionary Force to Greenland, producing the inevitable Trumpian explosion. This is provocation, but I didn't mean it. It was meant to bolster the defenses of Greenland, as though one bloke was going to bolster the defenses of Greenland. It is comic. It is a total farce. So let us enjoy it. And, you know, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen here? Well, the breakup of NATO. I'm not going to shed many hot tears over the breakup of NATO, which is now well underway. And the good news also is what Trump doesn't say. One of my former bosses, an eminent ambassador, a very wise man, veteran ambassador, taught me when I was with him in the Middle East, don't look for what the Arab leaders say, look for what they don't say. That will tell you more. And apply that to Trump. But what he didn't say was Iran. What he didn't say was Israel. What he didn't say was Hamas. Which is good news. They're not on his radar. So good news for them, good news for us. And that's probably because he has been a little bit chastened by his brush recently with Iran, when he was sending his soldiers up to the top of the hill and then had to march them down again, like the grand old Duke of York. Yeah, he withdrew some forces from the Dhahran air base in Qatar and then sent them back within 48 hours after he'd been told by Netanyahu, please don't provoke Iran. We're not ready for it. We couldn't handle their missiles in the 12-day war, and we can't handle them now. So that's the good news. For the moment, he is off Iran's case. And he seems to be somewhat losing interest in Gaza, which can only be good news for Gaza as well.
Yeah. While we're on that subject, then let's you mentioned quite a few there. Let's get into Starmer.
I do want to be clear with the House. I will not yield. Britain will not yield on our principles and values about the future of Greenland under threats of tariffs. And that is my clear position.
Wow, a real strength from the greatest leader the world has ever known there, Peter. the problem that we have with Starmer, isn't it, is that he will go along. He seems to be the only one who wants to carry on the war in Ukraine. Everybody else, suddenly Mertz has turned into, shall we say, Joan Rivers turning around and saying, can we talk, when he's literally been banging on about all sorts of things that he's going to do against Russia. We've got Macron as well. Let's have a little look at what Trump had to say about Macron here. Here we go.
With Emmanuel, who probably is in the room too. And I like him. I actually like him. Hard to believe, isn't it?
And of course, he's saying that he likes Macron. He literally turned around and said, what on earth happened to him, to his eyes, that he's wearing the sunglasses. He was basically hinting that Bridget had had another go at, should we say, what she started on the plane that day. He's not bothered, Peter, about what NATO thinks, about what Europe think at all, is it?
Absolutely not. And the Europeans are only asking for more punishment. He's gone to Davos to give them a punishment beating. That's what we're witnessing here.
Yes.
And they're just bending over. They're bending over for it. They haven't a clue how to respond. The Canadian did, I have to reluctantly admit, retain a little bit of dignity, but Starmer is not taking that course. He's putting it about that he's being diplomatic and he's trying to soothe the beast, and that is the way to go. But I don't think many people are buying that. And as I mentioned earlier, you don't soothe the beast by sending your troops to Greenland as a provocation.
No. So let's talk.
I find it rather remarkable that Starmer's hasn't been held to account for that misstep, possibly because all the mainstream media cheered him when he did it.
Yeah,
that the plan didn't quite work out. It didn't go according to plan. It just caused Trump to have a minor meltdown. In fact, Trump seized the opportunity. I'm sure he wasn't seriously put out, but he saw an opportunity, and the stupid Starmer provided it for him, and he knocked it for six.
Yeah, exactly that. Sean Murphy.
Well, Warren, I think we all know that that one chap who was sent to Greenland was only a tourist. He wasn't British Army. He went on his own. He was a tourist. That'd be Starmer's reasoning. We didn't send him. He was on holiday.
Well,
and by the way, the other thing we were talking about earlier is called acrophobia.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So Peter, what we're talking about here is a bunch of people who were sent to Greenland. Now, the Germans sent 13 soldiers, or should we say, on a fact-finding mission. Finland sent 2. Others sent. Britain sent 1, and everything else. Germany and Norway. The moment Trump said, "Right, we'll put the tariffs up," basically they skedaddled back home. I mean, first of all, as a provocation, it was stupid, and secondly, the cowardice afterwards was quite incredible, wasn't it?
It was a scuttle, a shameful scuttle, and at the same time, it's comic. The whole thing is an absolute comedy, and this was underscored during the press conference when Trump kept confusing Greenland with Iceland.
Yes.
So one diplomatic way out of the whole thing will be for us to offer Iceland, the grocery retail chain, and Trump wouldn't notice the difference.
Yes, sounds like a good idea. It does seem, and of course we'll play the whole thing later on. There was one person who's been very, very quiet on this whole thing, And this is the person that we call here ET because of her elongated neck and her very close look to.
I'm your savior.
The Foreign Secretary, absolutely conspicuous by her absence on all fronts, Peter.
Yes, this is the disappearing woman. I mean, the British Foreign Secretary, not that long ago, used to be an international figure, whether it was David Cameron at one time was Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson was Foreign Secretary, you had people like Jack Straw, Robin Cook. These were figures on the international stage. But our Foreign Secretary, whose name momentarily escapes me, Yvette something.
Yvette Cooper, yeah.
I'm not quite sure, is nowhere to be seen. You would have thought that at the very least she would have been on breakfast TV this morning, because all the news was about international affairs. She's not visible in Davos. Our other woman, the Chancellor, is there apparently. So we have an entire institution, the Foreign Office, which is missing in action. They ought to be driving our bit of this crisis, and they're invisible and providing no, from the evidence, no useful input. Foreign policy is being decided by Starmer and his coterie of advisors in Downing Street, notably the failed former diplomat Jonathan Powell. He who was instrumental in taking us into the Iraq war. The man is a walking disaster.
Yes.
And the Chagos deal, we may come on to that.
Yeah, let's come on to the Chagos deal then, because Trump really did, and he utterly slaughtered Britain on the Chagos deal. His actual words, here we go. Shockingly, our brilliant NATO ally, the United Kingdom, is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia, the site of the vital US military base, to Mauritius, and do so for no reason whatsoever. Pardon me. There is no doubt that China and Russia have noticed this act of total weakness. These are international powers who only recognize strength, which is why the United States of America, under my leadership, is now, after only 1 year, respected like never before. The UK giving away extremely important land is an act of great stupidity and is another in a very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. Your thoughts on that, Peter?
Well, where to begin? He has a point. It is stupid, but he missed the real stupidity, which is that we're paying Mauritius to take it off our hands. Trump, bless him, thought that we were being the ones getting paid for it. He said, do they need the money? But it's worse than that. We are paying billions. I think the amount's been estimated at 30 billions over the course of the lease agreement to Mauritius. And we're paying that for the sake of the Americans. The main use of that base, Diego Garcia, is to provide a platform for the American empire. We make very little use of it. In any case, how could we? What business do we have in the middle of the Indian Ocean anymore? It's one of the confetti of empire, which is proving to be a liability, just as the Falklands did, and just as some of our tax haven islands do in the Caribbean, Gibraltar with Spain. So the Chagos are part of the confetti of our empire, what we should have done is say, here are the keys, America. You can keep your base. We don't want anything to do with it. And you can keep it or you can pay the Mauritians, but we're out. We're out of here. And that would be the dignified response today.
Yes. Yeah, I think that would be absolutely fine. I mean, Trump did sort of batter Europe as well while he was speaking. Let's have a quick look at this.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument.
He was having a go, obviously, at the state of our European capitals, given what's going, what has gone on. Rutte, of course, the usual from Mark Rutte, quite incredible.
Ukraine should be our #1 priority, and then we can discuss on all the issues, including Greenland, but it should be Ukraine first, because it is crucial for our European and US security.
I'd like to open up the conversation.
In other words, I don't want to talk, Peter, about that at all. I'd rather talk about Ukraine. Let's leave Greenland on the back burner, because Daddy doesn't want me to talk about it.
Well, Rutte is another of these unelected honchos wielding disproportionate influence. He's a former Dutch politician, of course, but in his present position as head of NATO, head of the Secretariat, he's just a bureaucrat. He has no right to make foreign and security policy in that way. But that reminds me of the other bit of good news about Trump today. He didn't volunteer any information at all about Ukraine,
yes.
Even though he's sending his minions to Moscow tomorrow. Somebody asked him, are you meeting Zelensky? And in his graceless, typically graceless way, he said something like, yeah, I'm seeing the guy. Not, as Sama would have said, yes, I'm delighted to confirm that I'll be meeting President Zelensky. No, it was, yeah, I'll be meeting the guy. So not a promising prospect, I think, for Zelensky. So our cup runneth over with all this good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he's going to be meeting Zelensky tomorrow, or so we're being told by the people that we know in the US. Nilis, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was going to say about the Chagos Islands. The Chagosian people themselves went to the British High Court to try and reverse that decision, and they were rejected. And I know Mauritius is one of those countries where modern-day slavery is still very much a thing in the form of indentured labor. So if you get into debt, you can become a slave to somebody. And I think we were selling those people, the native islanders who we treated very badly and who were all thrown out and then they're allowed to come back to their islands. We're putting them from the frying pan into the fire in a way, because they can come under these Mauritian laws.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a danger of by walking away from this that we're going to leave the people of Chagos in all sorts of trouble here, Peter?
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Warren.
Is there a danger that the people by walking away from the Chagos Islands, we're leaving them to the tender mercies of the Mauritians?
Well, the Mauritians have far more right to the Chagos than we do. But the Chagos Islanders appear to have their own views on the matter. And the sensible and right course would be to have a referendum of the Chagos Islanders themselves. Do they want to be handed back to Mauritius? But let's be realistic here. Nothing's going to change. Britain is going to stay there, either with or without a lease. We're not going to walk away from it, even though people like me may ask that we should do. No, the islanders are in practice not going to see any change, I think.
Any real change. Fantastic. Let's get into this bit then.
And I'm dealing with President Putin, and he wants to make a deal, I believe. I'm dealing with President Zelensky, and I think he wants to make a deal. I'm meeting him today.
So he's not actually meeting him today. He's going to meet him tomorrow. We've got Witkoff as well coming out with this.
Well, the Ukrainians have said that we're 90% done. And I agree with them. In fact, I think that we've made even more significant improvement over this past weekend. We were meeting with Kirill Butinov, who is, of course, their new vice president, ran military intelligence for them, their head of the parliament, David, and with Rustem Umerov, and we made even more progress during those meetings in Miami this past week. I'll be with them tonight. And I think that, and then I'm going to Moscow with Jared. All of these discussions are...
When are you going to Moscow?
Jared and I will leave Thursday night and arrive in Moscow late at night and then go over to the UAE afterwards for working groups.
Peter, they seem to think that there's a deal coming here. Everything that I know from our Russian sources says we are a million miles away from there actually being a deal. What's your thoughts on this? Because they're saying that it's almost 90% done. Russia, when the 20-point plan went over to them, said that, first of all, the demilitarization is no good because you want 800,000 troops instead of the 80,000 that you did have. The denazification is not working because they've now put Budanov, and, of course, you've got Zaluzhny, who was a rabid neo-nationalist, climbing the ladder, waiting for Zelensky to be thrown off the top of the tower. And, of course, no Ukraine in NATO, which, of course, the Ukraine are turning around and saying we will never be out of that. And, of course, if we have this peace offering or this peace deal, they're going to be putting NATO troops into Ukraine as peacekeepers, which is NATO by the back door. This is all pie in the sky, isn't it, Peter? There's no chance of a deal coming anytime soon.
Almost no chance whatsoever. When they say 90%, maybe it's the 10% that matters. 90% are perhaps just the easy ones, the easy boxes to tick, things that the Europeans will do other than sending troops. The money that Zelensky might be given, the easy things. But the 10% includes the more difficult issues of territory and presence of NATO forces. You're quite right in saying that these are absolutely crucial, and without agreement on these, which is nowhere near in sight, they're just talking to themselves. This is just process. This is not progress. Process, not progress.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a great line. We've got this lunacy here as well. I'm just going to let this play for a minute, Peter, but the Europeans are banging on that, okay, maybe it's time we start talking to Putin, and that might have something to do with the fact that they dropped an Oreshnik the other day. Let's have a listen to the person who is the front runner, and I'll give you my 2 cents worth after we've listened to him.
President Stubb, I'd like to ask you first. Do you see this sense of urgency for a plan B among your European partners? Is there the need for that? And who should lead the charge? Because, I mean, it's a bit unfair. We're sitting here on the panel with Finland and Poland. You know, you are really doing a lot when it comes to defense, especially Finland. You have this comprehensive approach to defense in your country. Are your partners, are they experiencing the urgency? Who needs to come up with the plan B and lead the charge?
Well, I mean, 2 answers. First is a direct answer to the question of this panel: can Europe defend itself? My answer is unequivocally yes.
Without the Americans?
Without the Americans. I mean,
how?
Well, look.
But you're relying on them for these key elements. How would you do it at scale and at duration and at intensity?
With an assumption that the United States would cut off completely any kind of work.
Yeah.
Well, if we look at the defense composure of Europe by and large, and a country like Finland, so how do we do it? We have conscription. 1 million have done it. We can mobilize 280,000 soldiers within weeks. We have 62 F-18s. Your next question is going to be, do they fly without Americans? No, they don't. But do we trust that they will continue to fly because it's in the interest of America to do so? Yes. We just bought 64 F-35s. We have the biggest artillery in Europe together with Poland. We have long-range missiles, land, sea, and air. We don't have these because we're worried about Stockholm, right? So the bottom line is that if you ask me the question that can the Finnish military defend itself against a Russian attack, the whole defense posture of the way in which you do it, yes, we can. But then the second question which you were alluding to, I think we also have to understand that you fight wars on the battlefield, but you win them at home. And that means that all of us need to focus more on comprehensive security. The civilian side of things. That's why we have civilian shelters for 4.4 million Finns. That's why we have a security of supply where we don't get into any kind of trouble with food shortages, energy shortages, or electricity grids, because we've got this. And this is the, I think, capability that a lot of European states need to do.
Peter, this guy's a male version of Kaya Kallis, isn't he? I can't think of anybody worse to go and talk to the Russians. They might have all the artillery in the world, but they haven't got any shells. They've given them all to Ukraine. They've got no money to continue this war. That's quite obvious because they keep trying to steal the Russian assets. What's your thoughts on old Tombstone Teeth, Alexander Stubb, going across to talk to the Russians?
Well, those Baltic states, Finland, Estonia in particular, Poland as well, they scare the hell out of me because they're so irresponsible. They use aggressive language, provocative language, while admitting that they can't stand on their own 2 feet. They're entirely beholden to America for the ammo, but they still carry on provoking the bear. It's no wonder that Russia has no interest in talking to people like that. But the question is coming more and more into focus. Why aren't the Europeans talking to Russia? You know the old saying: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yes.
If you're not at the table, you're on the menu, and Europe is on the menu, and the Americans and the Russians are discussing how to slice it up, and the Europeans are not even there. So they've shot themselves in the foot, and Britain has been in the forefront of this stupid policy, the empty chair policy, pretending that we're nice people. We don't talk to Putin. It's absolutely stupid. And this is now coming home to roost. There's a growing public clamor for us to be there while Europe's future is being decided.
Yeah, absolutely. Louis Bastos.
Good evening and good morning. My opinion is Europe is sulking, like school children sulking. They don't want to talk to Putin because they're sulking. When they stop sulking and decide to talk to Putin, then something might happen. But I don't think Finland could ever defend itself against Russia. I mean, this is just baby talk. Because instead of buying the better planes, they're buying the bad planes. I mean, I'd rather buy planes from Russia or China than buy planes from America.
Yes.
My opinion only. My opinion.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's have a quick look then, because obviously we had Nareshnik dropped the other day by the Russians. And after that, there were some meetings in the Kremlin, Peter, and of course, people were going on, Putin's going to do this, Putin's going to do that. But it looks very much as though over the Christmas period and the New Year period, that the Russians have run out of patience and that they've now turned around and said, right, we're going back to the pre-1991 borders to do with NATO, which obviously is never going to happen. But it's very much hardened their stance. From what I can understand from people that we know there, that the Russians are now going that they don't see any other way to resolve this, but apart from taking eventually the whole of Ukraine, whereas before they were going to have the 8 or 9 oblasts that were Russian speaking, they're now getting to the point where they're like, well, we're never going to get any peace. We may as well just carry on militarily. And now suddenly it seems that the West is panicking into wanting a deal of some sort, Pete.
I agree. There's some evidence that's the fresh Russian thinking, but I'm not sure it would be wise on their part. I mean, let's be honest. Their military has struggled to get as far as they have after initial success when they took Ukraine by surprise, and now it's taken them almost what is it, 4 years? Last year they gained, I think it was an extra 2% of Ukraine's territory. If they're thinking they can take the whole of Ukraine, well, that will take us into the next century. Yeah. I think everybody needs to be a bit realistic here.
Is it that, Peter, or is it the fact that they're just sitting there and the Ukrainians keep making the stupid move of sending all their troops in? I mean, there comes a point, doesn't there, when Ukraine run out of troops and ground collapses like there's no tomorrow, but a bit like dominoes, really. Are we spending too much time thinking about ground and not what Russia are doing in terms of degrading the Ukraine military?
Possibly, but the war is also costly for Russia in terms of lives lost and economic damage, both of which are quite hard to assess, but are very exaggerated by Western sources. But nevertheless, Russia is paying a high price. What seems to me the new prong of their strategy is to increase civilian suffering by targeting the energy infrastructure, and they're undermining the morale of the Ukrainians in that way, and that may help bring about the collapse that the potential collapse that you're talking about, Warren. But the point is that the Western powers continue to be divorced from reality, aren't they?
Yes.
While it's more likely that Ukraine will collapse than recover its territories, the Europeans are pretending that that's not the case.
Yes.
And they still have their maximal demands. One can't blame the Russians from hardening their stance in the face of this stubbornness.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, Peter. When we talk about it, because we talk about them now, Europe beginning to want to talk, but the only ones who don't want to talk are the UK, and they're turning around and saying, there's, for security reasons, we must carry on the good fight and everything else. But when we talk about security of the UK, can you explain to me the utter folly of the new Chinese embassy that is going to be springing up right next to critical British infrastructure? Peter, walk me through this.
Well, this is more ridiculous folly. There is no serious grounds for believing that a big Chinese embassy would be a major threat. The Chinese at the moment have 8 diplomatic premises scattered around London. As the security services themselves said in their report that was referred to by Downing Street yesterday, in some ways it will be easier to monitor what the Chinese are doing under one roof. And in any case, it's ridiculous to keep wittering on about these underground safe rooms or cells or whatever. Every serious country has these secret rooms. We have them in my embassies. You need them to protect your key communications equipment. It's no wonder that the Chinese should want to have similar facilities so that the British can't eavesdrop on them. That's what's going on here, not the reverse. But the right-wing media have whipped up a frenzy over this, and the Chinese embassy has become a hate object. As a sort of sidelight on this, you remember Orwell 1984, the hate in. Well, this week the hate in is an object, the Chinese embassy. Not long ago it was Prince Andrew, and then it was Meghan Markle. But we need a hate in object every week. It's something in the pathology of this country at the moment. We are sick, and this is one, and hysterical over things like the Chinese embassy.
Yeah, absolutely. It does seem a major thing, doesn't it? We're going to get that. We just had it confirmed that Zelensky is going to Davos tomorrow. He's going to be having meetings tomorrow. I wanted to ask you about this, Peter, because we keep getting nonsense like this from the Express and the Telegraph, which is obviously pushing the military nonsense and MI6's rubbish out there. A leading historian has warned how the government might punish people who refuse conscription. I never knew conscription was actually coming, Peter. I thought nobody had agreed on that yet.
I think this will have to be my last answer because of the time, Warren. But again, you don't know whether to laugh or cry. There is no serious prospect, or at least I pray there isn't, of conscription. And yet the government itself has encouraged talk, encouraged generals, blowhards among our top brass and former top brass, encouraged this talk about the need to be prepared for war with Russia. So they must not be surprised when loose cannon historians talk about punishing people for running away from conscription. The Workers' Party has given this a stir with a group we've created called the No Conscription League, which is reminds me of Conan Doyle's book about story about Sherlock Holmes and the Red-Headed League. And it has a flavor of that period. So I encourage everyone to go on the Workers' Party website and join the No Conscription League.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, I know you're an extremely busy man. Thank you for your time this evening. Where can people find you if they want to contact you?
Very simply through Workers' Party of Britain website, the contact page, lots of material there.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Peter, once again, thank you so much for your time. Take good care and try to avoid being called up for military service if you can.
I'll plead senility. Thank you. you. All right. Bye-bye.
More than welcome. Take care, Peter. Bye-bye. Absolutely fantastic. That was Peter Ford from the Worker Party of Great Britain, who is a former ambassador to many places in the Middle East. And by the way, there's a lot of nonsense being spoken about Greenland, and we'll get into some of that afterwards. We'll also be getting into, should we say, Trump's full speech. We're going to show that here, just so you've got some idea of what's going on. Let's have a little listen to what von der Leyen had to say.
Greenland is not just a territory in a key region of the world map and a land rich in critical raw materials, a strategic outpost on emerging global sea routes. It's all of these things. But above all, Greenland is home to a free and sovereign people. It is a nation with its sovereignty and its right to territorial integrity, and the future of Greenland is only for the Greenlanders to decide.
Quite amazing that people think they've got a choice. Now, there are a couple of, should we say, MEPs having a real go in the European Parliament. There's massive fractures beginning to start in the EU Parliament. Here's a Spanish MEP being very OTT.
Ustedes, para Trump, son como María Corina Machado. ¿Hasta cuándo se van a dejar humillar? Alta representante, hoy Trump ha filtrado un WhatsApp privado en el que el presidente de Francia le llama amigo y le pide hacer grandes cosas en Irán y en Siria a cambio de Groenlandia. ¿Todavía creen que ayudando a Estados Unidos a cometer sus crímenes vamos a quedar a salvo? No, ustedes no van a acabar con los hijos de Trump haciendo negocio en Gaza o con el petróleo de Venezuela o de Irán. Ustedes, para Trump, son como María Corina Machado. ¿Hasta cuándo se van a dejar humillar? Bombardear y sancionar a Irán no va a traer libertad a las mujeres, va a traer petróleo a Trump. Y ustedes no han aprendido nada de nuestra historia. Hitler se anexionó a Austria y ocupó los Sudetes después de apoyar a Franco en España. Las élites europeas se lo permitieron todo pensando que así no iría a más. Y un año después empezó la Segunda Guerra Mundial. La política de apaciguamiento no evitó la guerra, solo hizo al monstruo más grande. Y Trump es el Hitler del siglo XXI. Hay que aislar a Estados Unidos y salir ya de la OTAN, no ayudarle a bombardear Irán. Tengan dignidad y miren a Canadá, que está firmando un acuerdo histórico con China. Ese es el camino, no el vasallaje a Trump.
Oh, there we go. Somebody's vehemently anti-Trump, saying they should literally throw America to one side. Can't see that that's going to happen, but there we are. That is something that is very much along those lines. Now, also speaking there were Besson. Let's have a listen to Besson, who literally is telling you that, yes, we started the economic collapse of the rial in Iran.
I want to say about sanctions, something else you've been working on, of course. What are you planning there in terms of Iran and the impact there? Do sanctions actually work? And the same question with regard to 500% secondary sanctions or tariffs on countries who purchase energy products from Russia.
Okay, so two things there. There are Treasury sanctions. And if you look at a speech that I gave at the Economic Club of New York last March, I said that I believe the Iranian currency was on the verge of collapse, that if I were an Iranian citizen, I would take my money out. President Trump ordered Treasury and our OFAC division, Office of Foreign Asset Control, to put maximum pressure on Iran, and it's worked. Because in December, their economy collapsed. We saw a major bank go under. The central bank has started to print money. There is a dollar shortage. They are not able to get imports. And this is why the people took to the street. So this is economic statecraft. No shots fired. And things are moving.
So there's Besson actually telling you that they were responsible for crashing the Iranian economy to get people onto the streets. And then when they did that, of course, then they had these weapons through the Zangezur corridor. Just have a look at this. This is just knives alone without all the rest. Now, many people have been now held up because of this. There is the Iran military, shall we say, operation. And we're going to show you a video now, which is going to maybe shock you, but it is worth having a look. This is, have a look at this. This is on the Iran Military Monitor channel. There are people here just walking along. Have a look.
ولی امشب قراره من یک پروژه تمیز کشتیبازی رو بهتون نشون بدم. وارد میرید کنار پارک پارک میکنید، یه نفر تنها ببینید که میاد رد بشه بره سمت پارک، طرف بره سمتش به همین راحتی طرف افتاد. اینجا قضیه اتفاق خاصی نیست، طرف قرار جذابیت تیم بودن این رفیقاش میان طرف برمیدارن میذارن به عنوان راننده همین میارن. حالا ویدیوشو میگیرن این با نگاه امنیت مردم میزنن همین قدر اینا تو میکنن. مثل این ویدیو قطعا زیاد درایت میاد نیرو امنیت تو زیر
So there we are. That's basically showing you one of the ways that they were killing people to basically turn around and say that security forces were doing this to their own people. Now, we've shown you many videos of this, and of course, there are tons of these videos available for people. But it just goes to show you just how far these people are going. Here's, let's have a little look at this as well. Here we go. Here's a rioter versus a non-protester with a hatchet. So dropping off on motorbikes and attacking non-protesters, nobody anything to do with the protest, and then turning around and saying that, of course, the security forces were responsible for this. President Trump, please help. Nicholas.
Yeah, we know the West have been using non-Iranians like Afghan refugees. Do we know the numbers of non-Iranians that have been arrested for these sort of attacks?
Yeah, there are 478 dead and over 900 arrested, Nicholas.
All right. Were they mainly all Iranians or were they foreigners?
No, all from other countries.
All right. Ooh.
Which is a high percentage of your rioters, and then of course, once they stopped the communications, and of course they were able just to open small amounts of communications through the Starlink, they were then able to track the so-called protesters, these so-called peaceful protesters, which were terrorist cells that were carrying out these atrocities, and were able to arrest quite a few of them. So hope that helps.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
Yeah, and of course we've got at the moment, and my thanks again to our good friend Graham, who keeps an eye on the sky for us. We have more American tankers and jets that are flying out to the Middle East. So this is part 2 of what is coming, and we believe that there is a strike coming. The US Abraham Lincoln is going to take a few more days to get in position, but we genuinely believe that there is a strike on Iran coming. Having failed to do the coup from the inside, they're now going, and it might well be a Saturday. It always seems to be a Saturday, doesn't it? And it seems as though the attempt to burning up the planet or carrying on these forever, these wars and everything else, are going to keep coming. Now, Trump has turned around and said that he will obliterate Iran should they try and attack him. And of course, the Iranian, should we say, the Iranians have been very, very firm in what they've got to say. Everybody's saying the Iranians want to talk. There we go. Agaraki, I always call him that, as Ukrainians grieve their loved ones and rebuild what's been destroyed by terrorists, another threat looms. The final failure of diplomacy. An all-out confrontation will certainly be messy, ferocious, and drag on far, far longer than the fantasy timelines that Israel and its proxies are trying to peddle to the White House. Iran's message to President Trump is clear. The US has tried every conceivable hostile act, from sanctions and cyber assaults to outright military attacks, and most recently, it clearly planned a major terrorist operation, all of which failed. It is trying to think. It's time to think differently. Try respect. That's not going to happen either. The Americans are on a one-way shuttle when it comes to Iran, and of course, China has sent 50 cargo planes over, Dennis, to Iran, and of course, this is going to turn into a confrontation. They're going to try. My best scenario here is that they are going to try a strike to literally take out the Iranian leadership. They're not going to go boots on the ground. That's simply not going to happen. And they don't, if they can help it, want to get into a protracted exchange of missiles. But it's definitely coming. So we thought we'd let you know about that one. So let's get into a couple of other things before we show you the full President Trump effort, should I say. And of course, we've got this, Larry Fink.
We believe that outside the United Nations, this is the largest gathering of global leadership of the post-COVID period of time. For many people, this meeting feels out of step with the moment. We hear all about the elites. And how does that play out in an age of populism? How does an established institution make a difference in an era of deep institutional mistrust? And there's some truth to the critique. I believe in this forum for a long time. I certainly wouldn't be leading this if I didn't believe that we can change and make the world better. But it's also obvious that the world now places far less trust in us to help shape what comes next. If the World Economic Forum is going to be useful going forward, it has to regain that trust.
So a charm offensive is coming from the World Economic Forum that's going to make you trust them once again. The World Economic Forum and governments and military are responsible for such things as this.
So we invest in these technologies to assist with the warming climate, and the effect of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere will help block some of the warming, and the particles stay in the air for 1 year. So, and actually we're speaking to some of the airplane manufacturers and to see if they can emit some of our technology into the atmosphere to help with the global warming. That's right. Yeah, climate. I mean, we don't like to use the term climate engineering. It scares people, so we prefer.
But for me, being an engineer, I think that's actually what you do. It's
yes.
You can have financial engineering. You can have, I'm sure, climate engineering, because it involves something that's more scientific.
Yes, exactly. You're an engineer. You understand. And it's from Sweden, right? Yeah. So we don't like to call them chemtrails. We don't like to use this.
So what do you call it instead?
Well, we call it aerosol injection. Aerosol. It's kind of like little droplets.
Okay.
And the droplets form in the air, and they stay there for a year.
Yeah.
It's modeled kind of a mini volcanic eruption, actually.
Yeah. I mean, aviation fuels have some sulfur in them, so it creates some sulfur dioxide emissions naturally, and that does have a cooling effect.
Now, this guy, Kennedy Ritchie, who runs a company called 4Air, spoke on stage, and he says on his website that he wants to, quote, decarbonize the aviation industry. He actually told me he was trying to eliminate contrails entirely, but then brought up cloud seeding.
A lot of the work actually came out of the military, so they do this all the time.
Have you worked with them at all?
No, because they're a little more closed door about their procedures.
You ever heard of sulfur dioxide?
Yeah.
You've heard of that? Okay.
Yeah. It's actually pretty cheap to do it. The ability to put sulfur dioxide there is actually a pretty cheap way to cool down the earth.
Oh, yeah.
So the opportunity for, one or two people to do it is, impressive. He went a little further. He's like, it'd be interesting if the government start doing this over each other's territories on purpose. Like if we start getting weather modification as a government, either good or bad. The closest one I'm aware of is someone called Airborne Snow Observatory. They do some more like weather, I don't want to say modification, but more like upper atmosphere weather monitoring is probably a better term.
Yeah. Now, according to the website Airborne, this is what this guy Ritchie brings up, measures snow depth, snow water equivalence, provides highly accurate snowpack data,
is a commercial spin-off of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory snow monitoring technology used to help water managers and scientists.
Earlier today in this room, Al Gore was in this room, Larry Fink was in this room, and now we're in the room talking to people about geoengineering, weather modification, and the trails that come behind airplanes and what's going on.
I don't want aluminum oxides in my lettuce. Are you kidding me?
Say that again?
Aluminum oxides. Aluminum oxides are part of the cocktail from hell that they're spraying above our head.
There we are. So, of course, that is somebody, of course, who James O'Keefe, of course, he's looking at all sorts of crazy things to do with the goings on, with the inner workings of people like the WEF and people like that. How is anybody going to trust these people? And in fact, on Friday, we'll be having on a gentleman who is, there are certain things, of course, that the WEF push, such as transhumanism. And on Friday, we'll be talking to somebody about transhumanism. So people will be able to ask questions about all those sorts of things. We will also be having somebody on about geoengineering as well. So just to let you know, when the WEF talk about regaining public trust, there is no doubt whatsoever that the public do not trust them, because they put many things and are trying to push many things like transhumanism, the climate nonsense, the global boiling and everything else. Once again, complete nonsense. And of course, we'll be digging well into that. Now, if you want to hear about a former politician who's gone over to the dark side, and you want to hear what's happening in the Scarborough Shoal, and you want to see the full tape of what Donald Trump had to say and the latest tanker that's been jumped on board, you will have to come across to warrenthornton.com. And of course, there you'll be able to see the rest of the show. But for the time being, you have to leave us. Thank you very much for watching.